Alright, hello people, I am the dude and this is my rant review for the series 4400. I've been watching it lately and I've caught all the way up to the end of season 4, and it's really good. Every review or mention of it that I've seen, they compare it to the X-Files. It's not the X-Files. It's not as good as the X-Files, it didn't last as long as the X-Files, it's not as memorable as the X-Files, it's not as unique. Really, it's not anything compared to the X-Files, but is it good? Yes. The X-Files was amazing. I mean, comparing it to that is doing it a disservice. The 4400 is really, really good. That's the short version. The long version, plus all the spoilers. The basic premise is a whole bunch of people get taken to the future, and they're given this chemical, whatever the hell it is, and it gives them special abilities. Some of them can move things with their minds, some of them can control people, some of them can create things out of just sheer willpower, stuff like that, all kinds of freaky abilities. And they get sent back to the past, taken to the future, given these new abilities, and then sent back to the past to attempt to change it for the better, to correct some fault that humanity is gonna create, some big disaster. We never actually see that disaster. They allude to it multiple times throughout all 4 seasons, but you never actually get to the disaster. They talk about how we're failing to stop it, or we're on the right path, and all this stuff, but you never actually get to see it. It's all the, beforehand stuff leading up to it. The plot itself, it's good enough to keep the series going and to give everyone something to talk about. The stakes are high enough. The world's going to come to an end, basically, if they don't fix it. If they don't use these abilities to fix whatever. It's very vague. Whatever is going to go wrong, if they don't figure out a way to fix it. And the different characters, they all have a part to play. And they're all dynamic. None of them are just, completely one-dimensional and boring characters. They all have something to contribute. Probably my favorite character is Maya's character. Her special ability is that she can see the future, which seems pretty obvious, pretty bland as far as powers go. But the way they use it in the series is really, really, really interesting. She's constantly seeing things, but they're usually something that isn't obvious to the plot as it is right now. It's always something it's like a curveball. Every time she sees something, it's a curveball, and we as the audience, it gets our mind going, like what could happen, when's it gonna happen, who's it gonna happen to, stuff like that. It's never everything you want to know. It's always little tidbits. I think the first big one was the figurehead of the 4400. They're the ones that got sent back with the abilities. Jordan Collier, he's gonna die out of nowhere. She just wakes up from a nightmare and she's like, someone's gonna kill Jordan. So who's gonna kill him? When are they gonna kill him? Are they going to stop whoever's going to kill him? What are they going to do about it? All of her predictions are some of the bigger moments in the series. It's always her telling people what they don't want to hear, and then they have to figure out how to deal with it, And her character as a person as well is pretty good too. She's pretty bland in the first season because she's a really young kid. She doesn't have much personality then. But as the series goes on, she gets more and more dialogue and more involved in the storyline. And later on, she gets put in danger multiple times. And those are really good moments because you want to know what's going to happen to her. Probably my favorite part of the entire series is when the future decides to take Maya back. They decide that the people that the 4400 that they send back aren't enough. That they're not going to, prevent the catastrophe to come. So they go back and they take some of the kids, some of the original 4400 were kids, they take some of them back and they're going to send them further back into the past to try and, fix whatever mistakes they made the first time, right? So they take Maya and I think it's like 4 other kids, they steal them from the present and they're going to send them back, I think it's like 100 more years back into the past to try and fix things even more, I guess, I don't know. But what happens is, all the people in the present forget about them. They don't even know Maya existed anymore. And it's a huge moment because she's such a big part of the story at that point, and you don't want her to just disappear. You don't want everyone to forget about her, right? You're like, no, her mom can't forget about her. That'd be tragic, right? So that was a really, really good episode. Like I said, probably my favorite. I was like, no, you cannot get rid of Maya. What the hell? And everyone's acting like nothing happened, because they don't remember her. It's not a tragedy because they don't even know she exists anymore. Which in and of itself is a huge tragedy. But yeah, big spoilers. They fix it. They bring her back. It's very interesting the way they go about it. Nothing is obvious in this series. It's always convoluted as hell. The way they get Maya back, the way they get Tom back when he gets taken over by the little nanites or whatever from the future people or whatever, the bad guys, the way they get him back. What happens to Kyle is very, very convoluted. I guess I should go into all this. I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, Maya's character is great. Tom and Diana are the two agents that are overseeing the 4400 when they first get sent back. The whole first season it's basically like, it very much is the X-Files, the first season, trying to be the X-Files. You got a male agent, you got a female agent, and they're sent out on these crazy cases that always have, supernatural science fiction type elements, and they're trying to stop, the bad guys, or help the good guys, or figure things out, It does have that vibe, but it's not as good. In fact, the first season was the worst season of this series, if I'm being honest. All the different seasons, 1, 2, 3, and 4, they all start slow. It's like a running theme throughout this series. They all start really slow. Didn't like any of the first episodes in any of the seasons, but they pick up really quickly and they end with a bang. They end really, really, exciting and, spectacular and in big fashion. But Tom and Diana, they're partners. They're regulating the 4400. In the first season, the government doesn't really know what to do with them. Some of them want to get rid of them. Some of them want to cure them, get rid of their abilities. Some of them want them all to be killed. Some of them want to lock them away. So everyone's on the fence about the 4400 and what should be done about them. And Tom and Diana are basically the police in that first season. They're tracking down the 4400 that do things that they shouldn't be doing, and they're trying to stop them. Or if they're in trouble, they're trying to help them. Stuff like that. And it's not a bad season. It's just not as good as the other three, to be honest. But it does set up a lot of the characters. Like Maya and her future telling ability. Kyle, Tom's son. He's not a 4400. He doesn't have abilities yet. But he was there when one of the 4400 were taken. And he got affected by the future people. No one knew that. They didn't know he was a 4400. Or didn't know he was affected at the time. But it turns out that he was supposed to be their spokesperson. They put someone inside of him, and that person inside of him was supposed to explain everything to everyone. Why the 4400 are here, what their abilities are for, what their purpose is, stuff like that. And it didn't work out. It backfired. And at the very end of Season 1, the big climax, is that Kyle has been having these blackouts. He's losing time. He doesn't know what he's doing during this time. Turns out that he kills Jordan Collier, the head of the 4400, if you want to call it that. He's their figurehead. He's the one that's in charge. He's the one that's making all the decisions. Tom's son kills him. Kyle kills him, straight up assassin style with like a high-powered rifle. And at the very end of Season 1, we find out that it's Kyle. I think it's at the end of Season 1. It might be at the beginning of Season 2. I don't remember. But it turned out to be Kyle, and that was a really big reveal because it had been building up over multiple episodes that Kyle was having these blackouts, that something was happening. He was doing something, and he didn't know what it was. And it turns out that he was meant to assassinate Jordan. It was actually a part of the plan. More often than not in this series, when crazy things happen, they're usually a part of the plan. Especially in the earlier episodes, it's like this big elaborate scheme, and everything's falling into place. So, Season 2 was, again, it started really slow with some really bland, boring episodes, but then it picked up really, really quickly, and it got really, really good. They keep introducing new characters like Isabelle. Isabelle starts out as a baby, and she was sent to the past by another faction in the future. The bad guys. The good guys sent back the 4400 to try and save the future. The bad guys in the future sent back Isabelle to kill them all. To wipe out all the 4400 because they want to keep the future the way it is. Even though it's basically this dystopian future where the world's barren and all the resources are gone and only the elite survive and everyone else is basically eating shit. It's a terrible future, but they want to keep it the way it is. So they send this like smart bomb back and in the form of a baby, Isabelle, and she's all powerful basically. She's like Superman. You know, if you want to think of her like a superhero, she's Superman. She can't be harmed. No one can stop her. She can kill anyone at will. I mean, the bad version of Superman. So she's back in the past, and as a baby, she's not really that big of a problem. But very quickly, people realize how powerful she is. Even as a child, she can wipe people out. She can kill people. She can cause them to do whatever she wants. Mainly, she just protects her parents from any kind of threats. But very quickly, people realize that she's a problem, or she could be a problem. And then in a blink of an eye, in one episode, she goes from a baby to like in her mid-20s or something like that. They don't really explain why it happens, or if they do, I somehow missed it. But she's immediately a 20-year-old, and that's when the problems start. The power that she has goes to her head very, very quickly. And one of the people from the future, the bad guys from the future, they call them the Marked. One of them has come back to kind of corral her, to make sure she does what she's supposed to do. That's Matthew Ross in the series. He's constantly in her ear, telling her what to do, telling her that, you know, her purpose is to wipe out the 4400. She has to do that, even though she doesn't want to. And sometimes she's doing the evil stuff that she's supposed to do, and sometimes she's trying to fight against it, and there's like an internal conflict there with her. Is she going to be a good guy in the end? Is she going to wipe them out or try to? What's going to happen with her? What's the conclusion? Her story arc, it's really up and down. She's a baby, she's all powerful, but mainly she doesn't have a purpose at that point. She immediately becomes a 20-year-old, and is she going to follow what the future wants her to do, or is she going to rebel against it and, side with the 4400? She kind of does the latter, but then wishy-washy changes her mind, and then the good guys in the future send this syringe back full of something that's supposed to stop her. At the time, it makes it sound like it's going to kill her, but what it actually does is it suppresses her powers. So she goes from being the most powerful person on the planet, literally, she's unstoppable, to being just a normal person. And the dynamic completely changes into where she literally is unstoppable, and now she's powerless. She's helpless. And then again, later in the series, after she's gone through her whole, humbling experience now that she's a human, and she learns what it's like to not have all powerful, sway over everyone around her. She gets her powers back, and there's the same conundrum comes back where is she going to be good or is she going to be bad? Because the power starts going to her head again, and in the very end of her story arc, at literally the very end of season 4, the last season, she ends up sacrificing herself to kill some of the Marked and to save Tom and Jordan, to save the male agent guy, the one who's been policing him throughout the entire series, and to save the figurehead of the 4400, Jordan Collier. So she does the right thing in the end. But for a while there, it was kind of hard. She even almost killed Kyle. Actually, she almost killed Kyle, Maya, Shawn, her parents, who else? Jordan. I'm probably forgetting some people. Throughout the series, she's a constant threat to everyone. She kills a whole bunch of people, and she almost kills plenty of the main cast. She leaves Shawn in a coma. At the very end of season 4, she almost kills Kyle, but she can't do it. That's when she changes her mind and decides to be a good guy. She almost kills Maya and a whole bunch of school children because that's when she's like full bore, I've got to stop the 4400 mode. That's when they take her powers away. But yeah, she was a really good character. Shawn's character, I don't think I've said anything about him. He's a healer. Anyone he touches, he can remove any disease or defect or any health problem, he can cure it. The catch is that early in this series, it drains him. He can't do it very often. Very early in the series, they haven't learned to control their powers. They're not very good with them yet. But his character is very one-dimensional. He's one of the few that is early on in the series. He's kind of like this lost kid, and he just does what Jordan tells him to. And Jordan is constantly using him for his power. That's really it. That's all he is early in the series. He's the bankroll. You know, Jordan brings rich people in that need to be cured. Shawn cures them and they take the money. That's really it. Later on in the series, he becomes the figurehead. He takes Jordan's place once he's assassinated, and he gets a lot more responsibility, and all the burden is on his shoulders, and he doesn't really know what to do. And there's a lot of interaction between him and Ross, and him and Isabelle's father, Richard, and all this stuff. He becomes a lot more important, basically, as the series goes on. And then in the final season, season 4, he has a lot of big decisions. He's a part of pretty much everything. He's one of the whatever you want to call it, one of the people that makes decisions in season 4. He matters. He matters in season 4. So as useless as his character was early on, it becomes really important. Still, he's one of my least favorite characters because even when he's making decisions, it's not very interesting. It's always he's gonna do the right thing, or what he thinks is the right thing. He doesn't want to spread Promicin out there. I don't think I've mentioned that yet. When the 4400 came back in the first season with all their powers, very quickly they tried to suppress them. The government tried to suppress the powers, and that was starting to kill off the 4400. The inhibitor, that's what they call it. That's what they were giving them, was causing them to die. It was literally it was blocking the Promicin in their system, and that was killing them. And then I think it's in season 2 where they figure out that Promicin's what's making them have the powers in the first place. It's some kind of whatever you want to call it in their brain or something like that. What do they call it? Neural inhibitor, neural something, neural. I don't know, whatever the hell it is. Some kind of biochemical thing in their bodies. That's what's giving them the special abilities. And they start extracting it. The government is the first one to extract it. They want to use it to create super soldiers to fight the 4400 because they're convinced that they're going to be, a threat at some point. And very quickly, Jordan, the leader of the 4400, he takes all the supply of Promicin, and out of nowhere, he just decides to give it to everyone. Everyone on the planet. Anyone who wants Promicin can take it, and they'll have superpowers of some kind. Everyone, for the most part, gets one power, and it's very random what they're going to get. Some of the powers are really obscure, really strange, but that makes things more interesting. And some of them are just ridiculously, game-breaking. They're extremely strong. Like, Maya's power is probably the strongest, arguably, because she can see the future, and every time she sees the future, she causes change. I mean, that has to be one of the most, important powers. But, every human being, if they want to take Promicin, they can get a power. The catch is, it's only 50-50. Half of the people that take it are going to die, and half of the people that take it will eventually get a power. So, there's a big drama about, is Promicin right? Giving it out to people, is it morally, is it the right thing to do? Because half the people that take it are going to die. And the argument is that they still have a choice. They're not forcing it on people, right? So if people understand the odds and they still choose to take it, then it's on them. It's not on you. That kind of thing. But Promicin is a big theme throughout the. I'm pretty sure it's like halfway into season 2 and then all the way into season 4. They're constantly debating, should they give it out? Is there a way to lower the odds of people dying? Can they control it? Who should get it? Stuff like that. It's at the core of the series. That and the fighting the future. Trying to understand what the future wants and combating the bad guys from the future, the marked. That becomes huge in season 4. But let's see, what are the other characters? Oh yeah, Tom and Diana, the two agents. I haven't even talked about them much yet, but they're literally the main characters. They're everywhere throughout the series. All these extra characters that I've been talking about, they get a lot of screen time, but Tom and Diana are always there. They're usually the ones talking to these other characters, whereas everyone else gets a little bit of time here and there. Tom's character is probably he's our character. He's who we are in the series. He's the one that you're constantly following, that you're with day in, day out, moment to moment. Every problem he has is our problem, that kind of thing. He's our perspective through the series. Diana is there too, but she's not really the focal point as much as Tom is. Usually if it's focusing on Diana, it's about Maya. It's not really about Diana. Because I mean, there's very few scenes where it's just Diana and not Maya or Tom with her. That makes sense. She's still a good character, and she's still a part of the series, and her and Tom have really good dialogue, and they're constantly helping each other out, even though it might put their career in jeopardy, literally, or their lives in jeopardy. They're constantly there for each other, so they're good together. But it's more about Tom at the end of the day. Tom and his future wife, one of the 4400 got sent back specifically to be his wife, and he just kind of rolls with it. That had a whole huge chunk of episodes in and of itself, focusing on Alana, and she becomes a really big part of the series for a while there, and then she's just kind of gone. Tom and Kyle, Tom and his son, that's a huge part of it. Tom and his bosses. There's multiple bosses of the agency that they run. It's called Intac. Ryland is the first one. He goes from being Tom's bestest buddy in the world to being the enemy in, I think it's like the start of season 2. He jumps on the bandwagon that the 4400 are dangerous, that they have to be, locked away or, cured of their powers or something. He's on the extremist end of the spectrum, and Tom is he's still trying to figure things out at that point, but he doesn't want to hurt the 4400. Most of them aren't evil. They're not bad people, and most of them aren't using their powers to hurt people, at least not intentionally. So he's on the fence at this point, and Ryland shows up. I think he's like all the way through season 1. He disappears in season 2 because he almost gets killed, and then he's brought back as this private sector CEO that's contracted by the government to create the super soldiers to fight the 4400, which doesn't really last very long. It's a really weird subplot, if you want to call it that. They show up, they get to Promicin, they create some super soldiers, and those super soldiers you see one time, they do one thing throughout the entire series, and then they're just gone. It's really strange because they build it up like it's going to be this big thing. Like the government is going to wage war against the 4400. Literal war. Like, conflict is going to break out and there's going to be body count and all that. It never really happens. Like I said, they do one little covert mission, and I think it's like late in season 3, and that's it. You never see them after that, and you never see them before that. There is one episode where one of the super soldiers in the program before it's finalized, he escapes and he goes like rogue and decides to kill people on this list or something, but that's like completely unintentional. I mean, it's not like the government sent him to do that. He just went crazy. So it's not really the same thing. It's not the government plot. It's just him doing his own thing. So that one, thread of which was a huge part of the story for quite a while there just kind of disappeared. I don't know. But yeah, like I said, Tom, he's everywhere. He's a part of everything. And he goes through a lot too. He loses his kid multiple times. He loses his wife. He loses his sister. He loses his nephew. He thinks Shawn is dead for a while there because he's not dead. He's in a coma. I mean, everything bad that can happen to this guy happens to this guy throughout the series. And to top it off, in season 4, his entire being is taken over by one of the marked. They take him over. They're like, piloting him. They are Tom. And they're killing people. They're doing evil things. While betraying the family he has left. His family and friends. Tom's life is a tragedy throughout the series. Not much goes right for him, to be honest. But to his credit, he sticks around and he's still trying to do good. And he's still trying to, help the 4400 and solve the problem and save the future and all that. So you got to give him credit. But nothing goes his way. Nothing. And most of it's the future's fault. They caused all this. And he's still trying to help. But yeah, like I said, he's a really big character. Who else is there? Jordan is a big character. I think he shows up like halfway through season 1, if I remember right. And immediately he's this businessman type who he knows how to use people. He knows how to manipulate the system to the 4400's benefit. He's he's like a politician, basically. That's what he is. And he's constantly lobbying for the 4400 and, how great they can be and how they can save everyone and they can change the world and all this. Very quickly becomes this religious figure where instead of just being a businessman, he's like the next prophet. He's gonna save the world, and uh, he's gonna lead everyone to salvation, that kind of thing. And his character, he's very ambiguous. It's very hard to tell what he wants at any given time. All except the very first season, he thinks what he's doing is right. Right? In the first season, when he first shows up, he hasn't had an encounter with Isabelle yet, and he's a greedy, backstabbing bastard. He's mostly in it for himself, right? He's doing this with the 4400, but he wants to use it to make profit or to make himself popular, publicity, stuff like that. Whenever he has his first encounter with Isabelle when she's a baby, she changes him. She infects him with something, and it makes him a better person. And from that point on, at the very least, everything he's doing, he thinks he's doing for the right reasons, not selfish reasons anymore. But what he's doing usually probably isn't right. He wants to hand out Promicin to everyone, even though it's going to kill half the people that take it. And whenever they finally find a way to improve those odds, he finally makes it clear that he wants everyone that doesn't take Promicin to die. He doesn't want people to know that they have a 0% chance to survive Promicin, because that would mean they wouldn't take it. And if they don't take it, then human beings are still roaming the earth or whatever. He wants everyone to be on Promicin or dead. That's his plan at that point. And his logic behind it is, if there's two separate classes, then they're going to constantly be at war. So he thinks what he's doing is right. He thinks that Promicin is going to save the future, and the only way to get Promicin out there is to give it to everyone and let everyone else die. They can't take it. So he still thinks what he's doing is right, but in the end, it's probably still wrong. So he's a very interesting character. Plus, he's at the center of everything. Tom is constantly butting heads with him. He takes Shawn under his wing, the guy who can heal with his hands, takes him under his wing and uses him in the early season, and then when he gets changed by Isabelle, he comes back and Shawn doesn't agree with him anymore, and they have conflict throughout the whole last 3 seasons of the series. They're constantly at each other's throat, because Shawn, he believes in helping the 4400, but he doesn't believe in doing it at the expense of everyone else. He doesn't want to hurt humans, regular people, whatever you want to call them. And him and Kyle become really close at the end of the series, Tom's son. Tom's son is pretty lost throughout all 3 seasons. All 3 of the last seasons. He's fairly normal in the first season before he realizes what he's been doing with his free time when he blacks out. But at the beginning of season 2, he's very lost. He doesn't know what his purpose is and what he should be doing. And he's constantly in the background, doing things that his father doesn't approve of. And in the last season, he becomes a fanatic for Jordan. He thinks that Jordan is the savior of humanity, and he's going to do everything in his power to help him. And Tom he's constantly on the fence. How does he help him? Should he turn him in? Can he save his son? Stuff like that. There's a lot of interesting stuff there between Tom and his son. But at the end of the day, Jordan is at the center of pretty much everything. At the end, at the end of season 4, they try and implant him like they did Tom. They want to take over Jordan, and that's not really resolved. I don't know what happened there. They don't cure him. They don't remove the nanites that were gonna replace his personality. They just save him. They get him away from the marked. So did he get taken over or not? I don't know. There's not going to be a season 5 apparently, which is too bad. Most good series, they either last long enough to stop being good, right? You could argue the X-Files stopped being good long before it ended, which isn't a bad thing, because when it was good, it was amazing. It was insanely good. It was spectacular. But all series, they either last too long and they become a shadow of their former self, or they don't last long enough and they go out on a high point. 4400 is definitely the latter. It went out on a high point. Season 4 was insanely good. Season 3 was probably my favorite, to be honest. There were a lot of really good storylines there. That's when they finally understand what the future wants, and that they're going to come back and change things further, and people are finally learning to use their powers, and Tom and Diana have a lot of really good moments in season 3. What happens to them and the big reveals with their family and, Maya and Kyle and all that stuff. Season 3 is just really, really good. I think it's the high point, but season 4 was maybe just a little bit, not quite as good, but still insanely good. Season 4 is when the 4400 decide to make their own slice of the city. They take over this polluted part of the city with their abilities. They cure the land and the water and all that and make it all habitable, and they take it over. They make their own little city-state in Seattle just for the 4400. And they, wall it off. Using their powers, they wall it off so no one else can get in there. And, they're doing their own thing. And everyone has to decide what they're going to do about that. Like Intac and the government and all that. It's the dividing line. It's like the start of the war, basically. Or at least that's what it seemed like. It didn't actually happen. But, them cutting themselves off from everyone else and, declaring that they're going to make the world better whether you like it or not, basically. It was very interesting. It didn't quite go where I thought it was going to. It was probably supposed to happen in season 5. But still, really, really good season. Let's see, are there any other characters I'm forgetting? I think those are the biggest ones. Let's see, Tom, Diana, Shawn, Maya, Kyle. Richard's character, Richard and Lily, Isabelle's parents, were probably my least favorite in the series. Every time they showed up, I just fast-forwarded, for the most part. After season 1, I just didn't want to hear what they had to say anymore. Most of it was just the same stuff over and over again. In season 1, it was just them running away from everyone. And, are we going to be able to, last on the run? And what are we going to do about Isabelle? And, all this stupid crap. I just didn't care. Their characters were way too one-dimensional. There's nothing interesting about them. Whenever they finally got to do their own little thing, like when Richard went back to talk to his old war buddies and to talk about the past and what happened, and when Lily had the thing with her old family and Heidi and all that, that was fairly interesting. But when it was just them together, it was just the same thing over and over and over again. And it was boring as hell. Later on, when they're separated, when Lily dies and Richard's the only one left, and he's actually using his powers, slightly more interesting, but I still didn't like his character much. At that point, he was all focused on Isabelle. He wanted to take her back and turn her back into a child because she missed her childhood. She went from being literally a toddler, well, not even a toddler, like a baby, to being 20 years old. It all passed by in a day. So he wanted to bring her back using another 4400's power, bring her back to being a child so she can grow up normally. And it was slightly interesting. They just didn't do much with it. It didn't last very long. I think it lasted like 1 episode. He turned her back into a child and then immediately afterwards changed his mind because he decided he did the wrong thing. I didn't think he did the wrong thing. I think he did the right thing. Yeah, she wouldn't be the same person she was, but the person she was decidedly, at the very least, possibly a threat to all of humanity. So yeah, I thought he did the right thing. I thought he should have kept her as a child and let her grow up again and be a normal person. But, they took that away, probably because of plot convenience. They wanted her to come back and be what she was. The all-powerful badass that she was. And, it worked. I gotta give him credit, it worked. When she busted in and, wiped out some of the marked and saved Tom and Jordan. For that scene, it made sense. And she got to, do the noble sacrifice thing. So, let's see, other characters. Yeah, the multiple bosses of Intac. Really, the best one was Ryland. The other two, like the second one was a non-factor. She really wasn't that big a part of the plot. And then the third one, the one that Tom got involved with, she was just kind of there as Diana's, echo. Basically, everything Diana wanted, she wanted. The saving Tom and stopping the marked and all that. You didn't need her. Basically, I mean, she was redundant. She was another Diana at that point. So I didn't really think she was that great either. But Ryland's character was great. He was kind of in the background like all of the Intac commanding officers were in the first season. But once he went evil, once he wanted to stop the 4400 at any cost, then his character became a lot more interesting. When him and Tom were constantly arguing and their friendship basically went out the window, and they almost kill each other and all that stuff. That was really good. So as far as the Intac, bosses go, he was the best. Ryland was the best. He actually should have stuck around longer. But, what can you do? Let's see. Who else is there? Yeah, I already talked about Alana. Shawn's brother, he has a very small part of the plot. You see him a lot more in the first season when he's arguing with Shawn about how he's now the 4400 and how he doesn't think that the 4400 should exist or whatever. He doesn't approve of them. Still, he wasn't that great of a character. Not really his fault. He didn't have much to do with the plot. Yeah, Megan was the new boss of Intac. Ryland. The sister, Matthew Ross, he was the first marked, although they didn't know he was a marked back then, but he was the first one to come back. Hell, the people who made the plot probably didn't even know what he was at that point, because they didn't drop any hints if they did. He was probably, ambiguous to them at that point, but they turned it into the marked in season 4, which is one of the better story arcs. They can come back and implant anyone they want and just take them over, basically. The bad guys from the future can come back, put these nanites in someone and completely control them, take over their personality, and use them for, their own purposes. Whether or not they're good or bad, their own purposes. It's pretty vague who actually is the good guys. Because every time Maya sees something, no matter who's at the helm, it's always bad. Sometimes it's the 4400 causing the destruction. Sometimes it's, the marked are causing the problems. Sometimes it's humanity, our government that's wiping everyone out. So it's very vague who the actual bad guy is. Plus the good guys from the future, the ones that sent back the 4400, they do some evil things, some not nice things. They're very willing to sacrifice people. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad or what. They'll sacrifice anyone if they think it will save the future. And they're also the ones who steal Maya. It's not the bad guys. The good guys, I don't know what to call them. The people from the future that sent the 4400 back to save everything, they're the ones that came back and stole Maya and sent her back further into the past. Even though she had a family now and a mother who cared about her and all that stuff, on a whim, they just grab her up and send her back into the past like it's nothing. And when she goes back into the past, she dies at the age of 20-something. 25, I think. And at that point in the series, you're thinking Maya's gone, right? She gets snatched up, she gets sent to the past, they look up what happened to her because it's in the past, there's a record of it, and they find her, and she died from like cholera or something at the age of 25 in the Wild West. She's dead, right? You can't go back and save her because she's gone. And then I think it's like 1 or 2 episodes later, Tom finds a way to bring her back. He's a big part of the plan or whatever from the future, and he decides the only way to contact them, the only way to get them to come to him is to kill himself. So he tries to kill himself, and they stop it, and they show up, and he convinces them to bring Maya back. The cost in that is that they give him the syringe that's going to stop Isabelle. And like I said, they make it sound like it's going to kill her. He thinks that if he injects her with it, she's going to die. He's going to have to murder her. It turns out that that's not what it is at all, which makes you wonder why they didn't make it clearer in the first place. But all it does is it suppresses her powers. She stops being Superman, basically. Even Isabelle thinks it's going to kill her. At one point, she challenges Tom to inject her with it. I don't know if she wanted to die at that point or she's just that confident that he wouldn't do it. But later on, when he tries to inject her the second time, she takes the syringe away and starts chucking people around like they're rag dolls. So I don't know, but he's supposed to be this really big part of the plot, right? He's supposed to be this really big part of saving the future. So when he tries to kill himself, it gives him leverage to save Maya, to bring her back to the present, basically, from her very short existence in the past, where she got a couple of years to grow up and then just died. But yeah, thinking she was gone, that was the best moment in the series. And then the way they brought her back, like I said, everything is convoluted in this series. It's never simple. It's not like they can just phone up the future and be like, hey, we want Maya back. And they're like, okay, it doesn't work that way. He has to try and kill himself to get a meeting with the future people who bring him to like their special, I don't know, like alternate dimension thing. And then he has to convince them to bring her back. And they refuse at first, saying that, it's integral to the saving of the future. And then finally agree if he'll murder Isabelle. So it's always very complicated. But that's where things get interesting, It's never dull, for the most part. I wrote down some of the other better moments. Yeah, Maya being forgotten and being wiped out from everyone's memory when she got sent back to further in the past, that was great. Uh, Kyle as an assassin, Kyle finally figuring out what's happened to him. The future people wanted him to be an assassin. They implanted, inside him. First, they wanted him to be like the voice of the 4400, and when that didn't work out, they turned him into an assassin to kill Jordan, because Jordan had to die to have his revelation to turn into like the prophet or whatever. I'm not really sure how that was supposed to work out, but it was really interesting. What happened to Kyle. Tom getting turned into one of the marked, that was great. Ryland as a bad guy, like I said, that was great. When he starts working for the government, really good stuff. Everything about Jordan was really good. His up and down, being a bad guy, being a good guy, then actually being a bad guy that thinks he's doing right, but probably isn't, and all the choices he makes, and, it's really weird because on the one hand, he's like, we can't give Promicin to people that don't want it, and, they have to make a choice, and, we're not going to take freedom away from people and all this stuff. But on the other hand, he'll do anything to promote the 4400 agenda. So, make no mistake, he is a terrorist at parts in this series. He is the bad guy in this series at certain places. But then it becomes very vague again, and he's like on the fence. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy?